What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 20. I had to dig really hard to find that number because usually I have time to look up what number we're at. Episode 20, not bad. Nice round number. And happy Lunar New Year.
Thank you.
Well, not to you, to my Asians out there, obviously.
And to yourself.
And to me. And who better to wear for Lunar New Year than the Pepperoni Soul Unwanted FC collaboration. Red because Lunar New Year.
Standard.
And green for all the money I'm not making doing this podcast. So, it's just... but it's cool because Unwanted, obviously an Asian Australian brand, and Pepperoni Soul, a Korean brand. So I think, pay homage to the season.
I've got a Western United kit on because it's got a pretty pattern. It's got diamonds. It's Kappa. It's nice.
So one of us obviously more,
plugged into the culture.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah. How have you been? It's been a while since we've been together in studio. What's been happening? Obviously, I had COVID. I beat it. I'm a survivor, and that is my story. But I would like to know what you've been up to.
I have been cowering in my home, trying to avoid the dreaded Omicron well. So, yes, I have been out and about a little bit. African Nations Cup final on Australia Day was fantastic fun.
Yeah.
There should be some highlights up on my Instagram by the time you listen to this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
his
it's awesome
Instagram in the description.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And AFCON was I was there last year. Obviously, couldn't go this year. Talent level super high.
Yeah, really high. And the cool thing about it is it's a random community tournament where all of these like diaspora communities and largely Melbourne's West play for their country of origin. So it was Kenya versus South Sudan in the men's final. Uganda were playing in the women's final against a sort of all-star team of the rest of the nations who couldn't put a team together. They just went under Australia. So it's a cool multicultural event. And the cool thing about it is that, especially in the men's competition, there are several players playing in this tournament that actually have played for their real FIFA national team in like World Cup and African Nations Cup qualifying games.
Awesome.
So there were several players on the pitch for South Sudan, for example, who actually have caps for the senior South Sudan national team.
Incredible.
Like... It's bonkers.
It's insane.
They're playing right here in the state leagues in Victoria, in MPL and in, MPL 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So there are hidden gems out there is what I'm saying. And I think this tournament and this organisation, Football Empowerment, does a really good job of uncovering those gems and trying to get them opportunities through their development squad and through their friendlies that they play against A-League youth sides of trials and professional contracts and contracts in the MPL.
Yeah, I mean, Tom runs it right out that
Tom
way.
Rabio.
Yeah, he's awesome. Tom, sorry I missed your DM. It was in the requests. I was not ignoring you, so please don't think that I didn't want to come back. I had a blast last time. Got some nice portraits of the community out there. And I think it's, for me, when I go to things like that, right, it's a reminder of what football is meant to be.
Yeah.
At the very...
what this country is meant to be,
Yeah. Talk that talk, Josh. Let them know.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm super conflicted about Australia Day, but it makes me feel better to spend that day doing something like that, volunteering and going out to broadcast a tournament like that, because it makes me a little bit more patriotic, I guess, to see that kind of stuff going on as opposed to, getting drunk at the tennis or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was home with COVID, so
I
was doing nothing.
I wasn't accusing you.
Yeah. Well, it felt like that. The white man tone. You get what I'm saying? Just quickly want to bring someone into the fold here. Christian, if you just step in front of the camera. Christian Bukoy is going to just be guest starring a little bit. Just, bring yourself. My usual camera guy for the work that I do with Park and other stuff. But he's here today. He'll be chiming in. I've got a specific topic that I think he'll love to chime in on. So if you take your seat behind the camera in the meantime. And you can turn the fan to face you because it's hot.
It is so sweaty in here.
Yeah.
Just appreciate what we're doing for nice audio quality.
Yes.
Because it is...
Mental.
Hot and steamy.
Yes. But I think we should start with something that's happened recently that I want to touch on, and I have some things to say about it before I let you kind of do your Josh thing, which is enlighten people. I just kind of here for the vibes, but I think, obviously Mason Greenwood's been in the news a little bit, a lot, in regards to allegations around assault, and that's all we want to say about that today. Like, I don't want to delve into that, but I've had some thoughts about young athletes who are in positions of privilege and power, let's call it for what it is, and abusing that. I mean, he's not the first athlete to be in this situation. You think of Benjamin Mendy with his countless, allegations, and the list goes on, and I'm not going to name them all, but I've been thinking about this idea of, well, how do we curb or better arm these young kids, pretty much, right? Some of them are making thousands and thousands of pounds a week. Curb this like idea of like, when you're in that position, you can do whatever you want, which I think is this trap that being rich and wealthy and getting paid unbelievably and being in the spotlight, that comes with that. And I've been toying with the idea of like, what if there was this, not so much a salary cap, but like say Christian, how old are you? You're Mason Greenwood's age. You're 20. Say Christian, becomes a super famous athlete, and portion of his salary gets put away until he's a certain age before he can access it. And I think that is important, because I think certain players might lose drive once they earn that, and also money can just kind of like convolute what it is you're doing. Yeah. And being in that position. And I think of like Jack Rodwell as a good example, when he finally signed for City and stuff. And I remember watching the Sunderland Till I Die documentary, and the accusations of him being happy to sit on the sidelines and collect the paycheck. Because in reality, like, as much as all footballers say they love football, some are more motivated than others, which is why you have the Ronaldos and Messis and you have the rest. And I'm not saying that this is just a money thing, but I was just kind of pondering after I read the Mason Greenwood stuff, like, what are these like factors that come together that kind of, I don't know, just me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you've raised there. Like, I think there is a phenomenon of young footballers maybe getting too much too soon, and also, like, I guess having no critical voices around them. A lot of the kind of entourage among pro footballers seems to be people are just trying to leech off their wealth and fame and status and get a slice of the pie. And basically they're just reinforcing all their biases and telling them they're gods, essentially. And I'm sure that completely warps your sense of humility and your sense of morality. Yeah. So that's clearly an issue. But as opposed to this case specifically, I just think, the attitudes and the violence that is constantly perpetrated against women in our society is so widespread that you can't pinpoint it to that kind of fame and football specific stuff. Honestly, I see the social media discourse, and I see a lot of people like trying to defend him. And I just think you're telling on yourself if you are. The evidence is pretty clear. And
it's not like, I want people to know that if you haven't seen it, I wouldn't go.
Honestly, it's like a massive, legitimate trigger warning.
I think it's important to make clear that like it's not easy viewing.
No. I think you're right in that there is a problem there, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know whether sort of paternalistic solutions are the answer, I suppose. Maybe the NBA has shown the way with their rookie contracts. Maybe that is the way to go. But I think also it's changing the culture at the clubs. Having more dissenting voices around these players. Having more education and more, 100%. I guess, programs in place at the club, so that this is drilled into them that they can't just do whatever they want, that their actions have consequences. Because it is, as you say, a completely unhealthy thing to go through as a young person with, we know men's brains don't fully develop until they're 25 or something, to be put in that position of power and wealth and privilege. So, I think it's an ongoing conversation as to how Premier League clubs and clubs at the top of the tree can do better, because it seems to me that they only take action when it's a massive PR hit to them. I don't know whether Manchester United, the organisation, really cares at an institutional level about what their players get up to off the field beyond how it affects their bottom line. And that is a problem that's hard to solve. And, there have been allegations against other Manchester United players that haven't resulted in the same instant action of suspending the player from training and matches.
Yeah. Well, that's all I wanted. I just had a thought about
Yeah.
a specific facet of it, and obviously, two guys sitting in a hot room, and it's not gonna have the
We're not going to
answers.
solve it today, folks.
But I just wanted to voice that because I think it's
Yeah.
I think and this is gonna sound whack, but like the more I see and the older we get, right? Like it's kind of just like you realize that sometimes like more money, more problems.
Yeah.
You know, and doesn't matter where you are and what status you have in life, that far out people have demons, you know, and are we doing enough to make sure that young people, not even young footballers, young people have access to the resources and the help and the guidance, you know.
How many careers have we seen go down the drain thanks to gambling, or substance abuse, or depression and mental health issues?
Yeah.
Like maybe football isn't doing enough to protect players almost from themselves.
Yeah.
And maybe we could do more for even retired players when they leave the game. Because, you know, it's a hard adjustment to make back to reality, back to normal life. So, you know, whether this connects to the specific example, I'm not sure. But like, there are a multitude of issues in the professional game connected to the fame and the money that maybe football isn't ready to deal with, or hasn't shown a desire to confront just yet.
Yeah. Usually I'm good at segueing, but I don't.
Yeah, can't segue from that.
So we're just gonna end that there.
Intermission, and then we'll get back to our usual nonsense.
Yeah. Dusan Vlahovic.
What a segue. Okay.
Was meant to go to Arsenal.
Yes.
Didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We have an Arsenal fan in the room.
Oh.
Who is very cut about it.
Okay.
And so I want perspective here. All right. So did he not go because he just didn't think that Arsenal were at the level that he wanted to be, or did he use Arsenal as a bargaining chip to then leverage into the Juventus deal? Or was it a mix of everything?
I always thought he was most likely to end up at Juventus. Juventus have a way of hoovering up Serie A talents. They obviously have an advantage over Arsenal in terms of the quality of their squad, but also just their standing in the Italian game is so high that they're almost tough to say no to. And we have in Australia, very Premier League lens, a very Premier League view of football. It's very Prem-centric. Sometimes this show is guilty of that as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think we fully appreciate on the continent just how big some of these teams are reputation-wise. Just how much of a draw, you know, Barcelona or Real Madrid or Juventus or AC Milan or et cetera, and so on actually are if the money is right. The money was right in this case.
Yeah.
And, you know, Juventus, I don't think they've used their advantage in Italy, both political and financial, to the best degree in recent seasons. But Vlahovic could help them get back on top just through sheer, I guess, goal scoring and star power.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether they've paid a good price for him, whether it's a good signing, I'm not sure. But I always felt, and I said this on one of the FNR shows before the signing was made, he's going to end up at Juve. Arsenal's a red herring. And there are certain like agents and things involved in this deal that make it seem a little bit dodgy to me. And I do think Arsenal may have been used as a bargaining chip.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop you there. Christian, come into frame. Watch out for the cables. When you hear that Arsenal is used as a bargaining chip, sit down for a sec. I'm out of shot, but that's fine. How does it make you feel as an Arsenal fan? You can hold the mic.
I'll hold the mic.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. These last couple of years, you know, Arsenal just on the down track. I don't know if we're going up with Mikel Arteta or not, but yeah, it's always that conspiracy or like a known fact that Arsenal's like the big club to go to through like history and all that. But then like, of course, when you hear stuff like that, it's kind of like a kick in the gut sort of. Yeah, that we're just used as a decoy to get the value up or something like that. Yeah.
how old is Dusan Vlahovic?
I think he's like 21, 20. Yeah.
So he wouldn't remember the last time Arsenal won the Premier League. He wasn't making memories.
No, probably not.
So, like, what does Arsenal mean? It's a team of essentially losers and fanatics that win the FA Cup every now and again, but, you know, they're a punchline.
Yeah.
Like, maybe to players of a previous generation, Arsenal are the Invincibles. Arsenal are Patrick Vieira and Thierry Henry. But to Dusan Vlahovic, that doesn't mean anything.
No.
That's not part of his, like, football psyche, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're just one of these mid-table Premier League teams that's in the Europa League or the Conference League, and they don't make the Champions League, and they've, you know, finished mid-table, even though they've, you know, seemingly got more money than the teams around them, and they're always in crisis, and there's, you know, dudes on YouTube who yell about how unjust the whole thing is. That's probably all Vlahovic really knows about Arsenal.
No,
Like,
I mean, like, I'm his age, basically.
yeah.
And, like, I never talk about, like, before my time or anything about... Of course, like, Thierry Henry was, like, huge guy. You see all these highlights. But then, of course, like, whenever Arsenal sign a player, they're always talking about Henry, about the invincible...
But are they
era.
fed those lines by the PR people at the club? Arsenal's very good at marketing still. But the problem is, what do they market when the performances on the park and the results on the park aren't up to the standard of, you know, the kit releases and the spin, I suppose. Like, I remember one tweet from, I think, Old Firm Facts, which is one of the best accounts on Twitter, that was like, did you know that retro fashion brand Arsenal FC actually have a professional football team who managed to beat Sheffield United in 2019 or something? It's just lived rent-free in my head ever since. I was like, they're kind of living in the past with their, you know, their reputation. It's a bit deluded to think you can beat Juve to the best striker in Serie A.
Yeah. No, I do get sucked into those kits. And
Yeah,
I am a victim. I do buy the kit, the retro
Did
kits.
you buy the that one they did with the public transport of London or whatever?
No, I didn't. That was a training kit, so I was like, nah, I won't go there.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal are at a bit of a crossroads. We've talked about this before. But they've got a good young core of players. And rather than, you know, wasting time on star signings that, you know, are probably doomed pursuits, and even in their previous existence under Arsene Wenger, you know, how many tales of players were there that they almost signed? Like, that was a classic story of Arsenal. The ones that got away, well, we looked at Messi when he was 14, but,
Ronaldo,
you know, he didn't want
yeah.
to... Yeah, like, all of these players, you know, could have, you know, worn the Gunners jersey and didn't. Arsenal's best asset at the moment is the youth that they're bringing through, and this core of young English talent that they've got in the team now with Ben White, with particularly Bukayo Saka, who I think is an absolute star, Emil Smith-Rowe, and you can occasionally swoop and get one of the players who's maybe on the outer at one of the super clubs, like Martin Odegaard, and you can try and use, I guess, advanced scouting and statistics and things to find gems that other clubs aren't higher in the food chain aren't going after. But Vlahovic is just not realistic. So unless you're paying him way over the odds. So I think it's time that Arsenal and their supporters, sadly, come to terms with that fact. Because, you know, if you try and break the bank for players, it can leave your team hamstrung for years to come. You get stuck on these big contracts like the Aubameyang extension, Lacazette, Ozil. You're better off investing in the youth. You get better value for money from players on their second contract than players on their last big contract. And that's where Arsenal, I think, should be operating and where they should be targeting talent.
Any final thoughts from you, Christian?
I mean, I do think Dusan was probably a good option just because he's age, young.
Yeah.
That's the way we're going at the moment. But, of course...
They were a year too late,
Yeah,
to be honest.
too late.
Yeah, like, Vlahovic obviously is a tantalising prospect, but everyone in Europe he was on their radar, you know. And maybe Arsenal have a bit more of an advantage than they have in previous few years because of the financial situation amongst other leagues and because the Premier League has an edge. So you can try and leverage that, I suppose. But yeah, this move in particular, I just never thought he was going to end up there. I just couldn't see it. And, you know, it might be a blessing in disguise because I follow all the stat accounts and things and the XG merchants and so forth, and Vlahovic is outperforming his expected goals significantly. So that suggests that even though he's a great finisher, that form will probably regress to the mean at some point. It's probably not quite as good as the numbers suggest at the moment. So Juve are buying him at the peak of the hype. You know,
how much did they buy them?
Oh, it's like 75 million. And they always structure it, the Italian clubs. They always manage to pay it in 16 different installments. Because, you know, the fine print, you got to read the fine print. You know, co-ownership deals and things and loans with obligation to buy. That's classic Serie A stuff. But Juve are buying at, you know, it's like buying Dogecoin after Elon Musk tweeted about it. Like, I don't know if Vlahovic is going to crater, but I think they've probably paid slightly over the odds for the player that he is. And maybe I'll be proved wrong, but I don't know. I think there's a bit, they are buying into the hype as well. So Arsenal might be better served finding a less heralded talent that they can get for a better price, and so that they can buy 2 or 3 or 4 players for the same money as Juve got Vlahovic for. So I don't think it's not the end of the world, is what I'm saying.
That's it? Closing thoughts?
I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, just for Arsenal, but hopefully there is one.
Thank you very much.
Well, smart to not believe it until he sees it.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And Christian will be with me in Brisbane, actually, for the X-Football pop-up. So if you see him around, give him some of your condolences. He's obviously very sad.
Yeah.
Very sad Arsenal fan right now. And also, just shout out to me for doing the longest Asian squat.
It's in honor of the Lunar New Year.
I mean, geez, my calves are on fire. Cramping, literally.
Hey, this is like being in a steam room right
it's
now.
hot.
I'm going to lose 5 kilos by the end of this recording.
And we'll just jump to the last bit.
Yep.
You texted me in a bit of a frenzy.
Yeah.
Adama Traore, lock it in for the Rondo. Here we are, the final segment. Talk me through the deal, because I was surprised when Barcelona came in for him. I'm surprised when Barcelona signs anyone at this point, because how do they have the money to do that? But he's back on loan from Wolves. Talk me through it. Is it going to be a hit or a miss?
I am very skeptical about this one. It's a loan with an option to buy, I want to say. And I wonder whether they'll pick up that option. Because Adama Traore is the best YouTube highlights player of my, 20 whatever years on this earth. 20, how old am I? 27.
Yeah.
Look, he's the best one-on-one dribbler, and he's got the best dribbling statistics and take-ons and so forth. And then he gets to the byline, having beaten his marker 3 times and left him in the dust, and the cross goes straight out of play for a goal kick. He is the most frustrating player to watch in an actual 90-minute setting, and the most tantalizing player to watch highlight clips of. And he's such an individualist as well. Like, I enjoy it when he's introduced as like an impact substitute.
Yep.
Because it changes the whole flow of the game and is exciting to watch. But as a supporter of the team that Traore is playing on, I would be throwing things at the TV.
Yeah.
Because the guy has no end product, and he's got complete tunnel vision. Like, he doesn't combine with other players. He just gets the ball and he takes on his defender every time.
Yep.
And, I don't know whether in the Xavi era of Barcelona, when they're trying to be harking back to the Pep Guardiola years of the complete team concept of the 1- and 2-touch tiki-taka passing, that's the kind of player they need. But it shows that Xavi is less concerned about the profile of player that he's signing and more concerned about whether they came through La Masia.
Yeah.
And Adama Traore, even though he's a complete counterpoint to the kind of players that Barcelona usually produce, did come through the Barcelona Youth Academy, and they're bringing him back. So I guess this is the whole strategy. That's as much as they've thought about it. So I'm very skeptical about whether he will work out.
I'm just as skeptical because, like, a guy that goes from as thin as he was to as jacked as he was without doing any weights is lying. You're lying. You're lying, Bubba, and we know you do weights. That's bullcrap.
If he's not doing weights, like, come on, there's something wrong. There's some sort of chemical imbalance.
Because when we think about Adama Traore's output as well for Wolverhampton, it's not like he scores a ton of goals.
He doesn't.
So
he misses the most chances of anyone on that team. Like, and I I'm usually a sucker for players who get into good positions.
Mm,
But,
cheeky.
I... I'm the Socceroos and Melbourne Victory's foremost Robbie Cruz defender.
Yeah.
But that's because the way he plays is within the team concept. He creates space for others.
Mm.
Traore just does his own thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he creates his own chances, and more often than not, he butchers them. So, I don't know. I think this is a mistake for Barca, given that they're operating on such a tight budget at the moment with the wage constraints and the debt.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a silly move, and they could have brought someone in better, but I'm also super intrigued to see how it goes because, he's such a counterpoint to the usual Barcelona style, and, maybe he'll be the point of difference they need. I don't really see it.
Yeah.
I think maybe, he just needs better coaching and to be able to slow down a touch in the final third and just assess his options, take that extra fraction of a second. But that's a hard thing to unlearn because he plays on instinct. So I'm skeptical, but then again, it's only a loan deal. So
he'll come back to Wolves.
Probably.
And Christian, what are your thoughts on Adama Traore moves to Barcelona? Do you think it'll work out?
Should I come in?
You just say it.
Off screen, disembodied voice.
Well, yeah, like you said, he's just just a unit player. Just takes on the defender, doesn't link up with any players around him. I don't know. All I can see him, he'll just be good for FIFA, I guess.
Oh, absolutely star FIFA player. And there was one tweet that I saw that summed this up, and it was after signing Adama Traore and Martin Braithwaite, Barcelona are now one Brit Assombalonga away from recreating the entire Middlesbrough 2017-18 front line. So that's where they're at.
And whoever was the football director at Middlesbrough,
Ahead of their
foresight,
time. Ahead of their time.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Clip that.
Up the borough.
Well, let's wrap this up because it's hot.
It is hot.
It's hot. As always, one thing you're looking forward to in the week coming up.
Well, the Socceroos are going to be playing. This episode will probably be out after they've played, so we'll have a clearer idea of whether we're going to the World Cup or not, depending on whether they win against Oman. I'd be lying if I said I'm looking forward to it, because I think it will be an exercise in fingernail chewing and frustration.
Yep.
But as to what I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to seeing the A-League back with some proper crowds and trying to bounce back after this, these lockdowns and these COVID outbreaks and so forth. Because, when there's a bit of atmosphere, and Melbourne Victory are playing well again, maybe we can see a bit of a bounce back. It's been competing with the tennis recently.
Yep.
It's hard to get ratings. Everyone's pretty pessimistic about it. But, I think when Swan Street, when Amy Park is rocking, then the local league suddenly looking a little bit more, it's a little bit more positivity around it. And to supplement that, the NPL is coming back soon, and I love that league mostly because I get to commentate it.
There you go. Shout out, Josh.
If you haven't been down to an NPL or Victoria game, give it a go because it's a different kind of football. You're much closer to the action. It's local. It's authentic.
Christian, have you been to NPL? No. Have you been to A-League? Yeah, okay, so shut the hell up.
Fair enough.
What
There's a
else
lot
are you
of
doing here?
Euro snobs on the show, I can see. But if the A-League leaves you a bit cold and you don't really get into it, maybe the NPL's for you. Because I want people to get back out in the community, back into local football. Because that was what really excited me about being at the African Nations Cup.
Yeah. Well, this week, Christian and I will be in Brisbane for the X-Football pop-up with Unwanted FC. Talk about local football. This is local football culture. Some of the biggest kind of Australian football brands will be out there. We'll have some Rondo content on the ground. I know you're scared of COVID. Maybe you should come to the next one.
Probably not. Probably not going to make it this time.
But yeah, we'll be doing a bunch of content out there. I think it's a good time for Australian football. I was having a conversation with Kevin from Unwanted, and talking just about how not only just with the Matildas and the Socceroos with their campaigns and all that, but also there's a lot of creatives in the Australian football scene doing good stuff. And we'll be talking to some of them, and it stopped recording. And I'm going to finish off here. So we're going to be talking to some of them on the ground. Do some crossbar challenges with them too, which will be fun.
You got a title to defend.
I got a title to defend, obviously defending champ at Park, and now we're going to bring some of that content into the Rondo, which will be fun. But I think it's a good time for Australian football culture. I really think the diversity at the African Nations Cup. I mean, unwanted Asian Australian brands, so many more. It's a real good
Ultra
moment.
football starting to pop off here in Melbourne.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
Get involved.